The chair is against the wall. The chair is against the wall. John has a long mustache. John has a long mustache. It's 12 o'clock, Americans, another day closer to victory. And for all of you out there on or behind the lines, this is your song.
Hey, welcome everybody to our daily gun show. Come be live every weeknight at midnight Eastern and talk about guns for an hour. So we're a little late tonight. Got a couple people joining us. We're having a conversation here, so be part of that conversation over on gunchannels.com, community we built about 6 years ago. And the people that are joining us are coming in from Gun Channels. We've got some links out there. We got Clover jumping in from Texas. Thanks for joining.
Good to be here. Appreciate you invite.
You bet. Thanks for jumping in. Then we got Woods jumping in from Washington State. Thanks for jumping in.
Thanks for the invite, G.
All right, so like I say, there's a couple other links out there. We'll see who all jumps in tonight. But it's Monday, so we normally talk about behind the scenes or how to get things done. Clover's heading up to NRA. Woods is doing stuff amongst his day-to-day. So where do we want to take this one?
Well, what about one of the things, I don't know if you've noticed or not, but I know we talked privately a little bit. We were talking about a few things having to do with Instagram, right? And I've been trying to employ a few of those tactics. So I don't know if you picked up on that or not.
What are some of those tactics, Clover?
Well, the whole watermarking thing, for one, and I forget that a lot. It's when you don't use a PC, which I try not to with my Instagram, because it takes so much more time, right? And they give you a lot of tools, and I know G-Webs has walked us through those editing tools before. Really appreciate all of that. But one thing he mentioned was, wanting to be able to watermark that stuff, of course. And I got to looking around, I'm like, how do I do that on mobile, right? I mean, I'm used to editing things in Photoshop on the PC and all that good stuff. And so actually found a little app and had to pay for it, of course, to get it to do, I don't want to say to get it to do what it needed it to do, but the type of volume, because it was kind of limited as to the fonts you could use and how many pictures you could do, things like that, right? But it wasn't too terribly expensive. If you paid for it for the year, it was like $9 or something like that. But yeah, I mean, it's a little bit weird because you've got to take the picture, and normally I would just take the picture, and with my new phone, I can frame it up. It's got like an Instagram mode, which iPhone for the longest time now you could take a square picture with it, which was perfect. But with this new phone, at least, even though it takes in the wide format, it's got these, you flip over to Instagram mode or whatever, and it's got these two little bars that it'll kind of run on the screen to give you an idea, where your Instagram's going to fall. So you take that, and then you have to open that, of course, with this watermark program, and you can do multiple pictures at one time and all that kind of stuff, and set your watermark in it and save it. And so it's an added step. But I think it works out well. And been playing a lot with some angles that G-Webs was talking about. He was also talking about using firearms and putting the ammunition in the picture. Just little tips like that I've been playing with, and seems to be going well.
Did you find that new phone's really helped you out? Yeah, I've seen you talk about it several times.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I don't see any other indication of why some of my posts would be getting more hearts or whatever than they were before. But if you go back historically and look, my averages are much, much higher now than they were before. And I don't know if I can't tell that much of a difference, but I'm sort of that way. I mean, this whole standard definition, high definition, I don't know if my eyes are not good enough. I know I don't have bad vision, but maybe I just don't see the subtleties, especially, and not unless they're like side by side, right? If I had, regular TV, a regular definition, something playing in front of me, and then a high definition right beside it, then I would probably see the difference. But um, I guess because I grew up the vast majority of my life watching TV, a lot of it, honestly, not because I'm that old, but just because of economical situation or whatever, in black and white, even that. I don't know. I just don't see those subtleties. So when you're doing things like Instagram and stuff like that, it's an obstacle, let's say.
Well, I'm with you. I can't tell high definition or not high definition. I've gone to my buddies' houses and they're telling me all about how I can see every little thing. It just seems like TV to me. I don't know.
Right, right. Yeah. I mean, I'm looking at the overall picture more than I tend to look at the definition within it. You know what I'm saying? It's like, oh, that's as long as it gets the story of the picture across, I'm good, right?
So you think the definition is helping you get more traction in Instagram then?
I don't know. I mean, that's the only real factor I guess I can contribute it to. That, and I've been doing something as well. I'll take and do homework and research tags. And there's, I don't know, maybe 5 or 6 that I use pretty much consistently across everything. And then I will intersperse picture specific tags and things like that. And I've been keeping all of that in a list, and it makes it a lot easier because all I've really got to do, if it's, if I'm doing revolvers, let's say, then, I can go to that list. I can grab all of those tags having to do with, let's say, revolvers. And then I've only actually got to change a few tags within that list, maybe a branding tag or a caliber tag or something like that. And that really helps from having to actually sit there and type in, 15, 20 tags, whatever the number might be.
How many lists do you think you have?
Oh, I probably got 20 at this point. Something like that. Because every time I do it, I save that to the list. You know what I mean? And it's kind of a pain. It's kind of a pain, I guess, to have to scroll through the list. But usually you can identify the list you want pretty quick. It would probably be more advantageous if I sit down with those lists eventually and, like, within the notes app of my phone or something like that, actually drop each individual list into its own little notepad and titled it whatever the subject would be. That'll make it a little easier to find. I haven't got quite that organized with it yet, though.
I think we know the answer for Clover. Dead Horse, do you use Instagram as a tool or a toy?
A tool. I do play with it. I do like to have fun with it, but mostly a tool.
Here's Mike weird for everybody. Seems all muddy.
It is a little bit
Weird. It's not. I mean, it's loud, but not clear. Anyway, Night Strike, toy or tool?
Both. I like to have fun with it sometimes, but I also like to just post gun stuff as well. I also use it for GunTube as well because GunTube's got its own Instagram account. So, both.
Right on. Woods.
I'm gonna have to say both too, because I have like my teaching ones that I learn a lot, and then there's the gun ones where I learn a lot, and then there's ones that are just silly.
Well, that's interesting because I was thinking tool like, do something with it, but you're saying a tool like learn something from it.
Yeah, like I was reading one today that was all the guns that John Moses Browning made, and what I was trying to figure out is, did he ever make anything that wasn't single action, as far as a pistol goes?
It's the Browning High Power.
But he died.
Yeah, but he still got the initial design in double action, single action.
Did he invent striker fire and full auto? There's full auto 1911s. So he also made lever action pistols, I'm sure. But he invented it all, so who knows how many things he built and then decided to pass on because it was goofy or something.
I like to do a lot of research on Instagram. Like if I'm thinking about changing out a gun part or something like that, I can see usually detailed, good quality photos. I might not want to watch a 20-minute video on YouTube or something, or might not care about like whoever's opinion or review. I just want to see detailed close-up pictures. I want, different colors, angles, stuff like that. And when I'm like after that kind of information, like how's this going to look, how's this going to fit, stuff like that, man, I think Instagram's a great resource for that.
That's a good point. Never thought of it that way, but yeah, that's a very good point.
Yeah, I'll just search up,
Well, I was just going to ask, how do you search stuff like that then? You doing hashtags, or you going to pages that or have that info, or how are you doing it?
So I definitely search hashtags, and then I have built up kind of a resource of like, people I follow on Instagram that I know are kind of like specialized in certain things, right? Like I know that there's the Glock guy, there's the SIG guy, there's the Beretta guy, so I know certain people to go to that are kind of specialized in a certain area or field, and those guys help steer me in the right direction, and I'll just go comment on their page like, hey, do you know where I can find this or that, or and then just searching hashtags, and yeah. And I ask questions, and then if I can't find an answer or something, I ask questions all the time on my Instagram, all the time. All the time, I'll post a picture or something, and then I'll ask like, "Hey, do you know about this or that?" Like I even did it today. I had a question something I'd never seen before, so I'm asking people that most people who follow me are gun people, so I'm asking them, like, "Hey, what's going on with this? Like, have you seen this before?" So, that's also a good a tool to use it like that too.
Well, that's something that I've been incorporating lately is try to ask a question, right? Just even if it's just, pick one question, or something like that.
Always ask a question. That's a good one. But that's just to get engagement. What Dead Horse talking about is, actually looking for an answer. So do you find when you do that, you get good answers, or is it like a bunch of jokes, or is it a bunch of stuff you have to weed through now, or you got like so many valid ones that now you wish you wouldn't ask the question? What kind of responses do you?
I usually get really good responses because I don't know, for some reason, like it's different than it's kind of different than YouTube. It seems like most of the people I think trolls and stuff like that, for some reason they just don't. I don't know if they don't pay attention to Instagram or it's not as big or what the deal is, but like I don't, I just get pretty good solid answers usually. Like people who want to help, and then like people who are just there to, mess with your day. They don't seem to bother you on Instagram. They just seem to leave you alone, and so usually I'll get like 3 or 4 or 5 good replies, and and sometimes they're different, different replies, different answers, right? And then that helps me better research it. Like, oh, hey, like let me research this avenue. Let me research this avenue, and that helps me make a better informed decision. So I think it's definitely been beneficial to me, especially with how fast I can find out answers. Where, I mean, let's face it, even with today's technology and the internet and everything, like not every answer is on the internet, and sometimes it can take you hours of sifting through forums or video or something to find an answer to a simple question, right? But on Instagram, I've been pretty fortunate. Like I usually have answers within like an hour to anything I ask.
All right, so I'm going to go to the trolls thing and go that way. So I'm going to ask each person just yes or no, round robin here real quick. Do you agree with Dead Horse that the trolls are lesser or less whatever pervasive or less around on the Instagrams than on the YouTubes? Clover.
Yes, absolutely.
Night Strike.
Definitely.
And then Woods. So now we're up.
Yeah. Yes, definitely.
And then, even if you don't get them, you can see the amount of hassle or whatever. So now I'm going to, again, we're having a conversation. So we're watching the text chats also. But let's see. So, okay, DTP is saying trolls probably don't bother with Instagram because everything gets buried so fast in the stream. They don't get enough attention.
Yeah, that's what I was. That's what I was going to say when Dead Horse mentioned that. Is that Instagram is so fleeting, right?
Well, it depends. If you're surfing Instagram, yeah, you're gonna. And nowadays with their stupid logarithms, you're gonna get weird. You're not just getting what you subscribe to. You're getting a version of what you're subscribed to, and but like what Dead Horse just said, that's like the opposite of that. Now he's using Instagram as an archive. But I guess what we're talking about here, little details about gunsmithing or reloading, or is this part this or that? That's not the same as like a post that's going to elicit a bunch of troll comments, I suppose. That would be more your political stuff and your I don't know, they like to pick on people that are showing off their gear or something like that, right? So okay, we all agreed that there seems to be less on the Instagram than on YouTube. So then the next, I guess you guys kind of already started this one, but is that because of the system or because of the human beings there?
I would say system, honestly, because you've got a lot of crossover, and you got to assume one would have to assume there would be a lot of crossover with trolls as well. So it's got to be something with the system, with the flow, with the way that it works that's just not optimal for trolls.
I think it's an age thing that on YouTube, I think I see so many young kids who are literally 12, 13, 14, 8 years old age. And that seems to be a lot of the trolls in that age range. And I see more of them using YouTube and interacting with YouTube than I do Instagram. And most young kids that I've seen like come across to my page or something, like you go to their page, they have like 2 pictures or something, and like I don't know, maybe not everyone, but it just seems like I see a lot more of that way younger crowd interacting on YouTube and watching videos and game things on YouTube than I do. Like, let's face it, this looking at a picture and reading a bunch of words is probably pretty boring to these kids, right? So, like, I think has a lot to do with it. It's just, I don't think Instagram attracts a lot of the young kids. You have to reach a certain age or maturity, I think, before they're like, oh, okay, I can deal with Instagram.
Right. Well, then that poses another question that, in my mind, I've always thought about is how many, I wonder what the percentages of people that actually ever even read the text. I mean, even the little blurb that's below it on the feed, let alone actually click on it and see the entire text. And I would honestly think that the vast majority of that's it's probably fairly low, that percentage, if I was guessing.
Yeah, of course. Same as with the descriptions on videos.
Exactly.
DTP Pfeiffer out there on the Gun Channel side said something interesting that relates to this. He says Instagram is more about pictures and short videos than texts or comments. So, and that's true. You can have a video or a picture up there and no comments and no one cares. They just move on. But with even with comments, no one goes to Instagram to read comments on a picture or a video. They go to Instagram to watch the video and look at the pictures.
You mean that's all correct. However, there's also posts that'll blow up and get tons of comments, and it is possible to whatever they call the hierarchy of comments. So you can reply to someone's comment, you can reply to a reply, you can reply to the sub reply, and it'll all view. Kind of crappy, but it'll all view on a phone. So if someone wants to sit there and scroll through, they can have these long text chats. I guess that's an issue. Maybe some of it is the form factor, and like you're saying, some of it is the people that come over being filtered out, I guess, because of their interests have to be in scrolling through Instagram. But I'm going to put this out there then. So we've had the before the internet, and then I've just been watching some old movies where the they didn't know what the internet was going to be, but they knew computers and robots were going to do something, right? They knew that we had to do something, and then space travel, right? They knew something was coming, but they didn't know it was the internet. So then we had the internet started up in like the 90s, and it was a lot of travel agency stuff, and people at offices and businesses and banks and stuff would use computers. And then we started to see them in homes with games, and they were all, you know, just for the most part recreational, and you know, somewhat allowed people to start using them. So anyway, I'm guessing, you know, we became familiar with them at some point in the 90s, I guess. You know, there was a lot of computers around, and people got less and less scared of them, but they were still sort of, what's the word, tentative, I guess. You know, not everybody was a computer genius. People were able to use them, and they were less scared of them, but they didn't necessarily use them to any extent. We weren't having conversations like this back then, right? There wasn't that many people using any kind of internet. So all of that concept is kind of new, and I'm still trying to wrap my head around it and get the point out there. But with this like evolution of the whole world, really, not just our culture, because everybody's got cell phones and they're communicating like this now. You know, when we were using the internet, originally it was about who could get to the internet, and then now it's about what you do on the internet. And now the internet is a commodity for the most part, like electric or like water. We don't think too much about, if we're going to have clean water. We think more about what cup we're going to use. We think more about the conversation we're going to have when we go, get drinks with someone. We don't think about if we're going to be able to find filtered water today. So with the internet becoming more and more of just a thing that we have, like a light switch that's there, and people becoming more and more familiar with it, and not just how to get onto the internet, but less concerned about what the internet is and what its boundaries are, but more concerned about using the internet. Is it possible that YouTube or I guess the evolution would go something more like AOL and then MySpace and then YouTube and Facebook and then next? We're in that transition into next. Is it possible that people are just becoming more and more familiar with this whole concept of conversations and the idea that there's trolls, and less concerned? I mean, how often do you see someone really get excited about an email from some kind of millionaire scheme? I mean, that's not even funny anymore. It's not even interesting. It's kind of sad if someone's still discovering that today, right? I mean, viruses and stuff, we've all come and gone. We're familiar with it. We're familiar with the pitfalls, I guess, with going online electronically. Banking and stuff is all done. Is it possible that Instagram is popular as it is because we're getting past needing to get involved in those conversations? We know those conversations can happen. We've seen them happen. As a group, we're getting past it, and Instagram is just a much quicker way to get information back and forth. Will the next version be even quicker? Twitter was a faster MySpace post. Are we going to get even faster, where we can just push ideas back and forth and depend on other platforms, the old platforms, to actually thresh out concepts and discussions?
I think we will, but then I think there's drawback to that too. Because even though I completely agree with you and I understand what you're saying about Instagram, about being able to push, the information or the narrative faster, it's still text based in the means of the interactive portion of the conversation, which has massive drawbacks compared to being able just to talk with somebody like we are here, or on the phone or something like that, because otherwise you can't convey sentiment, and you can't sarcasm is often misinterpreted, and I don't know, there's just a lot of drawbacks to a conversation once you get to the nitty-gritty of said conversation. But as far as sparking a conversation, and that's one thing that aggravates me about Instagram sometimes, is you see people post. Matter of fact, I dealt with this past week. You see people post stuff, and then they have no interest in the conversation, and that's a little bit disheartening.
I think we can definitely go. We're going to get faster at communicating, but I think we won't get as deep. Hopefully that makes sense.
Yeah, that's pretty much what I was getting at. Yeah.
Well, okay, so we evolve as a species from, I guess, little small packs or something into larger herds or whatever the hell it's called when you have a group of monkeys or whatever cavemen, and then eventually dogs come along and we can sleep through the night and have more kids, and now we got more kids, we need more food, we start to farm, and then boom, we're done, right? Later on, guns, interchangeable parts, and we got the Industrial Revolution, and then we got computers. Most of that was because of us. But anyway, as we evolve through all that, we have we evolve from caves into city life, right? And I don't know how many generations it was between caves and going into big cities and stuff, but at some point we evolved, and now what was a long process probably of identification and communication to figure out who's good to know, you get used to just walking through a city and dealing with the fact that there's more people than you're ever going to meet on the street all the time, and you just walk through the street not concerned. You're not afraid of all those other people. You're not worried about everything that they're doing. You're hardly worried at all about them unless they're in your way or you're looking to meet one of them for some reason, right? Like unless there's an interaction or something. So, I guess that's maybe a way to illustrate what I'm talking about. Like, when we get online, we're all, hey, blah, blah, having these big, long conversations and stuff. But as we figure things out, sure, there's places you can go have like a city, you can go to a park and you can have a long conversation. You can go find a chessboard and have, all kinds of conversations with somebody or whatever for a long time. But if you're just walking down the street, having a t-shirt on or wearing a hat conveys a message that's enough. Isn't that the equivalent of an Instagram versus I don't know, like an email or something long and specific to an individual?
Yeah, I think so. Yep. Email, billboards, yeah. Window signs, sure.
Like electronically, we're just going to get more savvy and give it the weight that we need when we're having that kind of conversation, which I think is one of the interesting things about Instagram. Some people, you can tell, use Instagram weird, and some people use it just nonchalantly and don't even think about it. Some of it's a real mess. Some of it is like, you can tell they're probably paying somebody to do it, with a well thought out plan, and you scroll backwards through a feed and it's like watching a really neat puzzle get created or something, and then others it's just mess. So it brings to a conversation, a giant worldwide conversation, just a really neat tool, I guess, or platform. But it won't be the last one, right? I mean, it's got its disadvantages, I suppose.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
Mainly it's run by one individual or one individual company or whatever, mm-hmm. with an agenda and whatever preferences and discriminations.
Right. But that's something that's without a drastic shift in culture, that's something that I think we're going to have to deal with moving forward almost regardless. Especially if, and let me caveat by that by saying, especially if we're looking to spread a message in, for lack of a better term, because I know this technically is not applied, but legally, but especially if we're looking to spread a message in a more public arena. I think that most of the tech, most of the things that we're looking for and forward to, hopefully we're looking forward to them in the future, probably going to come out of Silicon Valley, probably going to probably going to have a little bit of a left leaning to them and all of that good stuff. So that's why it becomes increasingly more important to understand, because in a way social media is a game regardless, and you got to kind of learn how to play the game in some ways. And you've got well, I was going to say, you've got those that are willing to play the game. They see the benefit for with doing it. I liken it to this because there are people out there that give up, right? They're like, well, Instagram, since we're talking about Instagram, is owned by the Zuck, and the Zuck is, as out to get us all. And so screw that. I don't use Facebook or Instagram. Well, that's like, okay, you can be the home run king and not be on a pennant winning baseball team. And then so you're going up against the defending, world champions. And what do you set that game out when you have a chance to add to your record as, the home run king? I mean, it doesn't make any sense. It's that type of, well, I'm just going to roll over. They've beat me, so I'm not going to use it for, even though I might be able to only squeeze a little bit out of it, I'm not going to use it at all. And I just really don't understand that mentality on multiple levels. Number one, I think it's a rolling over attitude. But then number two, if you skip out on using these things and learning these things moving forward, then that puts you even further behind the learning curve with the newer stuff coming down the pipe. And then when that comes, are you going to be disgruntled, behind, upset, and give up on that out of sheer frustration because you haven't sort of kept up along the way? So it's multiple aspects of that for me.
Interesting. I guess it depends who we're talking to here. I guess if we're talking to just someone who's creating a channel and looking for growth, then yeah, your advice is good to go. But as you're saying that, I'm thinking, I don't use Facebook, and why don't I use Facebook? And as you're saying that, I don't fall into those things. I don't think because I don't use it because I don't like it. I don't use it because I don't want to encourage anyone else to use it. I don't think that by mastering Facebook, anyone has prepared themselves for the next thing. Instead, I think when people master Facebook, at least people I've experienced who've mastered Facebook, they start looking for reasons why Facebook, is the reason to do everything. And they start and I've unfortunately, since it's been around so long, I've seen people place their projects in Facebook because it was so easy, because it was accessible to everyone, because it had such reach, because it was such a powerful tool, and because it's not that big a deal. And not that their thing got persecuted, it's just that when they died, it was all on Facebook. So when I see things back in the day, somebody like, let's say, Carry.org, an awesome project that happened in the early 2000s, I believe it was, if I remember right, a lawyer that was going to school, and while he was in school, he had put together basically the reciprocity maps for the country, and it was just an awesome tool for if you were traveling, in the days of the early internet, or at least early broadband internet before phones and stuff were really everywhere. It was just an awesome resource to be able to go on and have a pretty good idea of what your reciprocity was with your concealed carry. And that project, when he went out of school, it died, and he moved on and whatever happened. But because it's on a website, it's there forever, and it's there not just like as an echo, but it's there forever. People say things are online forever. That's true to some extent, unless it happens to reside in the giant database that's owned by a company. And once these databases get massive to the size where they're literally, some of the largest things online, it's ridiculous to expect that everything inside those databases is going to be duplicated by outside sources. That's just not possible. So yes, things exist forever on the internet when they're on the internet. When they're inside of a thing, then they last as long as the thing lasts, with some exceptions here and there. But so that's where I see if we're talking to a regular person or project who's trying to create growth, then yeah, those are the typical reasons to use a giant platform. But if we're having a discussion with 2A activists and people that are interested in having valid discussions that are not just going to happen now, but start now and continue on over years, then being ingrained in platforms that suck butts like Facebook, I think is a hindrance to us all. And I've talked to too many of these successful, competent, well-versed, competent people that just depend on Facebook as if it's the internet, and that's just frustrating when that's.
But that's a.
But do we want the next line of people to follow their steps and say, oh, they use Facebook, let's use Facebook? I want to at least let them know that you can do everything they did on on your own platform, and you can, for all these different reasons, not be. Anyway, so you're saying there.
Well, but that example, the example you're giving there by the people that you're talking about that they only do Facebook, that's in diametric opposition of what I'm talking about. Because I'm talking about the people that actually give it absolutely no thought at all. And I think there's a middle ground, and you're right with the growth aspect, but to an extent, don't we need that growth to at least reach out to people to give the message that there are other places to go?
Growth for outreach, yeah, sure. I'm not saying get rid of it. I'm just saying if we're talking to activists, we don't need to be restricted to simply growth strategies or growth recipes. In fact, I think we should be more on the guerrilla / minding our business, because we need to be able to have clandestine, or at least, discussions off air to talk strategy and to say things that aren't necessarily archived for the antis to go in and, just try and take apart. But, I mean, I don't know. Yeah, I mean, I'm not saying that we shouldn't have growth. I'm just saying sometimes when we're trying to develop skills in activists, then we want them to know what's the, there's a difference between having a business meeting in a movie theater because there's a lot of seats there and they're cheap,
Right.
and having a business meeting, in a hotel's conference room that costs you $85, but there's seats and it's private and what you say in there is yours.
Sure.
So I guess maybe that's the difference. So, there's times when a movie theater is important, and everybody walking in to the NRA's, meetings in October of 1977, and at one time putting on a hat, it was a big deal, right? So, yeah, I mean, there's times when you need to be on the big platforms to make a big splash. But often I think we talk about things as if everything is about growth, when some of it's got to be about strategy. And the whole idea of mastering the platforms that exist now to keep your, I guess, wits about you and to be flexible, that goes hand in hand with ever discovering new platforms and thoroughly thrashing them through to see what's good about them as your skills improve. That doesn't mean you master stupid Facebook. It means when you, like whatever Dogbody posted that thing about that new video platform, with a mastery or at least a awareness of tools on other platforms, you can come in and evaluate a platform very quickly. So, as opposed to having to wander around and discover, you can just go in with intent, find, and make evaluations and keep moving.
True. Having a working knowledge. That's what you're saying.
Yeah, exactly. So, I definitely agree with you. Master the softwares that are out there. Plus, you want to know what the antis are doing, and if they're doing anything smart, use it. And if they're doing anything dumb,
Sure.
Be aware of that. So,
Right.
Like locking all your comments all the time. I mean, it's why they're doing it, because it makes them, it's evident that they have no ability or interest or position to justify or to support. So.
Right, to counter argue or whatever. Right.
But they're experts at saying it's because of the harsh internet, blah blah blah. So I don't know. At some point, we're gonna all have to. We wouldn't allow kids running around the streets being weird, right? Just because they can't, just because there's nobody home during the day. Everybody's at work. Kids don't get to run the streets at 3 p.m. Same thing with the internet. Everybody's working and not paying attention. Somehow culturally, that stuff calms down, I would think. And maybe one way to do it is empower the youngins. They're only out there playing because they understand the tools and they know that poking people in the eye gets them all upset. Well, maybe if you teach them that if you grab a screwdriver and fix something, it impresses people, and now you're not only successful, but you're getting just as much attention, if not more, from winning and from building instead of breaking.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And I think that's another reason not to hang out on Grandpa's platform, Facebook, where it's all about how to sucker the old people into giving them their Social Security numbers.
Right. Yep. It's yeah, I mean, I don't think in the next few years, I don't think that'll be nearly as big of a topic of conversation.
Yeah, that's true. That's definitely true. And
it's changed. I mean, that's you see, and it's been that way through history, honestly, on multiple things. But the kids early adopt, right? And then you kind of see the average age of the user increase and increase and increase and increase over time, and then it dies out because those younger generations is really what drive a platform. Seems like.
All right, you guys got anything else to throw in here about Instagram?
Don't forget that it can be fun. Like, it's still there for us to amuse us in one way or another. It can benefit you, and there's a lot of good things about it, but have fun with it. Like, man, there's a lot of stuff that I see on there. Like, I like to see stuff on there and smile, right? And see stuff on there and laugh. And if you're following a page and when you like look at that page, it like makes you like always sad or mad or something, like, I don't know, maybe look at some other pages, right? Like, I like to see cool and interesting stuff, which is guns, and I like to laugh and smile, right?
That's a good point. I don't agree, because every time you as a 2A activist smile, that's like Bloomberg winning. You have to be miserable all the time. No, so I just actually, that's a great point you brought up, because I just nixed or unsubbed, whatever it's called, canceled subscribing, like unfollowed. I forget what it's called on Instagram, but I unfollowed a channel that sucks. I went through and I'm like, I don't know, it's something, how there's people constantly complaining that their channels get punched down or whatever, like shut down or whatever. So somebody's channel must have got something or something. So somehow I saw them in my list that they resubscribed to me. So when they subscribe to you, it tells you and then gives you the opportunity to subscribe back, right? And I was like, well, I haven't subscribed to this place in a long time, so I'm going to subscribe to them again. Since they subscribed to my channel, why the hell not, right? So I subscribed to them a while back. This was days ago. And earlier today, I was thumbing through there, and I seen some picture come up, and I was like, what the hell is this, right? It wasn't quite like what Dead Horse was saying, but similar. I was like, what the, I don't like this in my feed. What is this? And I see who it is, and I look over there, and I kind of said the same thing. In my, not exactly the same, but I was scrolling through their feed, and I'm like, there is not one positive 2A message in here. Nothing that encourages anybody to get out and off their ass. Nothing in here. Everything was like snarky. Everything was like just petty and lame. It was just tedious. So I unsubbed them. I don't need that in my life. So, and I don't need to subscribe to anybody or encourage them, with numbers to create garbage and just a waste of time. But I don't know. Do you guys manicure or prune your sub lists?
Yeah.
And not only does people who I'm sub to, but if you keep getting like the same guy coming back and commenting on your stuff, and the only time he ever comments is to like say something fucking negative, and the guy never, sorry, I didn't mean to cuss, and the guy never comes around and says anything positive, just block him. Like, just like it's not worth dealing with those people. Like, just block him. Hit that block button and get rid of that person. It's not worth having that negativity coming in day after day, like, because you'll get people like that,
This is at midnight, so we swear all you want on here. But that's a great point, and don't talk about that enough. I think somewhere around tens of thousands of subs is when I get sick of it. Like, at some point, I really enjoyed getting all the comments. And for a while there, when we were doing this stuff full time, before YouTube started paying us, even when we were still just making money on the websites, and YouTube was helping that, and I started to see the number of comments that were coming in, I really dug it. I thought it was great because it was expensive and difficult and scary sometimes to try to get comments off the web, because there's just so much more abuse on the internet, or can be more abuse on the internet if you do it wrong or poorly, compared to inside of a platform. But YouTube, the platform, is such a very abusable platform. It's very insecure as far as platforms go. But yeah, I think it was 10 or maybe 2010, 11 maybe, but probably 2010 that I just couldn't do it anymore. It was taking hours to reply to every single comment. That's a great goal, and I think everybody starts with that goal. At least people that are interested in the actual conversations that their content creates, to communicate with everyone. you will figure it out at some point, depending on what your occupation is or what your life experience. You will figure out at some point there's only so many people you can keep track of, like if you want to do anything else with your mind. So you will only have some amount of resource for that. And internet people just drop way to the bottom compared to people that you'll have conversations with. And then you all know, I'm preaching to the choir, when you have conversations with people in your comments, you can consider those people friends. You know who that, not knowing who they actually are, their conversation is valid and consistent, and over time, they become relationships with other people out there, similar to like pen pals or something like that, right? But for those, just tons, there are too many people out there that are just negative, or for whatever reason just hit you the wrong way. Like Dead Horse said, do not even think twice about knocking them down. That just leaves room and time for you for all those valid conversations that are out there to be had. And it's difficult, I know, when you're at some level where, well, this is another view, this is another interaction, this is, when people think metrics are all there is. It's the conversations. If you're frustrated when you go to your computer, you're not in the long run going to enjoy it and do it. And even if you are successful and you've got to weed through garbage or grit your teeth and have conversations with people you don't want to, for the numbers won't mean as much. They'll be something that it's easy to drop and quit doing. And if we're talking to a content, right, there's just way too many people out there. Did you guys listen to my interview with Willis earlier? He thinks there's 120 million gun owners. I mean, that's a massive number. I like to say 30 million. I guess I'm thinking active, at least more than a gun in their closet, but, own a few guns and pulled out a 4473 before. I like to think 30 or 40, but he's thinking 120. That's a lot of people out there to be able to feel comfortable and forgetting a conversation with some weirdo on the internet.
Right.
Imagine if we brought a portion of those people out there online. Sure, we're going to find, just like the crazy terrorists and whatever they say with Islam and stuff, you bring all gun owners online, there's going to be some horrible assholes in there and some real jerks and some people that are just not fun to hang out with. But think of how many cool, awesome people there are out there.
Right. Yeah, it really is. It's a very underestimated demographic, I think.
And then one thing that can happen too, and this has happened to me, is that person will get on a different profile or have someone else contact you and say, "Hey, how come you blocked me? Like I can't, I don't see any of your stuff anymore." And that's when you take the opportunity to straight up tell them, like they're just nothing but always negative on your stuff, right? And that, I've seen that literally kind of almost change someone, and they're no longer negative on my stuff, and and they interact, and I unblocked them, and they interact with me and everything, and but they were like, oh wow, I guess people don't appreciate me being mean all the time or whatever, and that made a difference just by hitting that block button with a person. So
well, I think you get into a situation to where you've got a lot of people out there that are miserable. And it's whether it's something going on in their life, or they just think they've been dealt a bad lot in life, or something is a massive weight of stress that's been on them for a while, be it family life or whatever the case may be. And it's the whole misery loves company. And so they just, you ooze that if you're in that situation. And I think that sometimes you can snap people out of that, right? Make them aware that, okay, I may have it a little bad or be stressed over this or stressed over that, but why am I taking it out on other people?
And like I said, and you got to make your own judgment call, right? But my advice is, when you run into that, you just hit that block button. It's just not even. It's just not worth it. I'd rather be happy and not have to worry about that stuff and read it and deal with it, and I want to do more productive things than that negativity, right? And that negativity doesn't accomplish anything for anyone. And I don't want to deal with it. I would just rather hit that block button and move on, focus on good things.
Yeah, you're laying foundation. You're laying everything you're doing is another part of thing you're creating. then yeah, every nuisance little frustration there is either going to make it sloppy and broken. Trust me, 800 episodes, there's lots of broken ones in there. And, that's all the fault of trolls, right? 100%. But no, it makes it, if it screws with you, it messes with your goal and what you're trying to do. And when you look back at it, it's frustrating to know that, like, that I don't know, I'm saying like a video or two were messed up, or I don't know, maybe, I'm trying to remember now, but back in the day, maybe I'd post a video that had a question in it. Like Clover was saying with the Instagram, I'd post a question or something in a video, and I'd be curious, what's the reason, what kind of responses are people going to offer here? And then somebody comes in and says something about somebody's shoes and all, and now it's a big fight about shoes. It's like, what the hell? Like, that just threw it all off track, and it's, ruined it. Where if you just delete it, boom, it doesn't even get derailed or whatever.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Anyway, so anything else about Instagram? Taking a bunch of time with Instagram, so we're not here to plug it.
Shift gears. One good thing. I mean, since we're on the tech thing, this is just one thing I wanted to mention about the interview. Besides, that was a good interview, by the way, G. Him, and I don't remember his exact comment, but he seemed very positive, very eager, and very hopeful about the new media and the platform, and people utilizing it and that sort of stuff. And if we could get more people to do this sort of thing, it seemed like he was kind of on board. Is that something that y'all kind of talked about beforehand, or did he kind of just come up with that on his own?
Willis, like, I don't know. I watched him talk to Cheryl for like, I don't know, 5 minutes, and then she introduced me, and we talked for like a minute. I was there to talk to Cheryl, so I was just waiting politely for them to finish whatever, and then she introduced me, and then he went away, and I talked to her for a minute. So that's about the extent of as much as I even knew of him. That's when I learned. Well, like I say, I've seen him for years. I've known the guy because I didn't know who he was, though. He doesn't wear a badge or something that says, "Here's my name." So he's just some guy who knows everybody. And I've always been kind of curious because I don't see that many people at every single event, at least people that I don't know who they are, right? So, and I know he's been to more events than I've been to because I've seen him on video at events that I can't get to. So I know that he's super active in the community. I just didn't know what his role was. So anyway, so I was interested in meeting him. And once we chatted a bit and I found out he was running for a board, I thought, okay, I'll try to give him a platform. And it took a while. But anyway, no, I have no idea if he's, you're asking if like he's comfortable with the whole like social media stuff and all that?
Well, he kind of seemed like he was. I mean, he kind of seemed like he was an advocate in a way that more in the community need to be online, having these conversations, doing things, right?
Yeah, I mean, he's a military officer, so he's capable, he's competent. I don't believe it's possible for anybody who doesn't, who isn't, normal and has an intent to go figure out how to use the internet. I assumed he had a team or like younger people doing stuff, but after, that talk with him, I'm pretty sure he, pretty much either built or had built, his site and his projects and his places, his whatever you want to call, like channels, I guess, his accounts. So it seems like, he's done it. And if that's the case, if it doesn't sound like he's the kind of guy that went into some office and, told some publicity person to make all these accounts, whatever they're called, and then, was given a bunch of passwords, he seems like he's fluent in them enough that he built them. And that's, I don't know. I mean, it's competence. I don't know if it didn't sound like he was really all that interested. He's not like a nerd where he was like, amazed by the technology of the phone and like just, having fun exploring it still. It sounded like he was aware of the technology of the phone and utilizing it, right? But it sounds like he's in a unique position being retired with military. I'm assuming that meant, with some kind of retirement where he's able to do this full time, basically. And travel a bit, to be at events. He's in a unique position, and it looks like he's using his tools, his internet, his phone, his social media accounts, as tools to just be efficient. But I don't know if he's having any fun with it necessarily. But I don't know if, if he had to take 6 hours to have fun with something, if he'd pick up a phone, it sounds like he'd pick up a ski or something, right? Or a tennis racket. It sounds like he's a more active kind of recreational person.
But he talked about how, he enjoyed his range time when he was able to get it too. So that was, and how he posted about it. So that's interesting. I mean, I don't follow him on social. It'd be interesting now to go follow him on social after he said that and see if he actually has posted stuff.
Mhm. I mean, he seems like I say confident, and he was holding his phone. It's not like I've seen other people walk around who have like a younger person carrying their phone and their computer or whatever, carrying their camera, I guess, around. Depending on what year it was. He's just walking around being himself, so I'm pretty sure he's doing it from his phone. Heck of a lot of posts here because he was running for the board, and I mean, it's fairly obvious he knows everybody. So he's got a bunch of endorsement pictures. All this time I've been scrolling through endorsement pictures. So this isn't even back to the SHOT Show yet. Or wait, maybe he started campaigning last year. So this might be back last year. But still nothing personal yet. But I just barely got to, I don't know, I'm at CPAC. He posts a lot. Wow. CPAC was like 2 weeks ago. And I just was scrolling. He's got 1,500 posts. It's quite a bit of posts, actually.
That is. Yeah. But you're talking about Instagram? I'm not looking at your screen or nothing there. So I'm sure. But,
yeah. Sorry. Looking at Instagram.
Yeah. Heck, I don't even have that many. So, wow.
Now, a lot of them, like I say, are him campaigning, but he's doing it effectively. And whenever, we know how this stuff works. When he links, I guess it's not going to give me anymore. Come on. There we go. Every time he links to someone on here, that's potential they might link back. I'm seeing some duplicates. I don't know. Maybe his strategy was to repost some, or else this thing is just feeding weird for me because it's on a computer.
Right. Now a lot of people do the repost thing, so it's not uncommon.
I think he's a shoo-in. He's using the Lee Precision font, so he's gonna win.
There you go.
So now it looks like we're back at NRA, and I saw a picture of his gun there, and so this is probably a range. Any range day is. So what's he got on there? Is that a Trijicon?
It's an NC Star.
Is it really?
Yeah.
Oh. Then that's not got an NC Star on it though. So
You don't know that. You don't know that for sure.
oh, I know that for sure.
Concentrate on that front sight every time. Slow down.
Oh, you know what?
Concentrate on that front sight every time. Slow down.
Hey.
Concentrate on that front sight every time.
I wonder if he's filming at the NRA range. You're not allowed to film in there.
Concentrate on that front sight every time. Slow down. Concentrate on that front sight.
I've only been in there once though, because they won't let me film in there. I didn't have any reason to go back in there.
Right.
Oh, wait, I'm this way. But yeah, he's filmed a couple. Once we get back to his just regular posts and stuff, it's regular person's type of feed.
Mhm.
Somebody's using it too.
Yeah.
But going out and living life too. There he is, swimming next to a giant ass shark.
So was that Photoshop or was that like real?
I don't know.
Wow. Yeah.
I think that's a whale shark, and like they don't eat people, so like you can like, yeah, they're all nice and you can like go up and like pet them and stuff. They don't have teeth.
They just got that big filter mouth, right?
Yeah.
I'd make friends with this shark. Other sharks, I'd fight. Yeah. Anyway, so that's his feed. It's green.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
It's good to see he's active.
Oh well, I guess I
Now
could.
tell me this. Go look at like some of the other people in the NRA's Instagram and tell me how they look compared to that. That they look down to earth like that.
They won't look real. Well,
That's what I'm saying. They don't look real, right? They don't.
Well, we know. Are you talking like the people paid by the advertising company? like.
Well, yeah, or even people on the board of directors and stuff. Yeah, like
I don't even know who all those people are, but I guess we only know the famous ones out of there, unless I don't think I've ever seen anything like. You'd have to go to maybe NRA. Does they have a page for each board member, and then maybe in the biography page they'd have links to their social presence? Not sure. All right, well, so it's a daily gun show. So one of the reasons I call it that, one of the reasons we do it on a daily basis, so we can talk about stuff that's going on in the world. So we got the NRA shows coming up, and this weekend it's the 148th. So a lot of people want to throw out the bathwater and that little kid in there. 148th annual meeting and exhibits. 148. How many generations is that? My great grandfather couldn't have gone to that. So that started a long time ago. That's something that creates the place that we stand today. So for everybody that's going, have a good time. It's the annual meeting. So it's a organization made up of whatever you said, 5 million something members, 6 million members. And then, some industry presence, I suppose. And then there's the exhibits. So they call it the annual meeting and exhibits. The exhibits is basically a smaller version of SHOT Show. It's the same exact displays, the same booths, the same human beings, the same staff are there. Often it's the owners of the companies, the creators of the firearms, the people that build them. Sometimes it's the spokespeople, depending on the size of the company, but their products will be there. It's a trade show environment, so it's not a range or anything. You're not shooting anything. No firing pins, but that gives you the opportunity to pick stuff up off the wall, fiddle with it, see how it operates, see its manual of arms, see if it's ergonomic or whatever. Compare weights and balances and stuff. Talk to the people who make them and sell them to just get a unique perspective. Plus, you're going to be in a place with 80,000 like-minded individuals. It's not something you get to do very often. Even at SHOT Show, we only get 60,000 people show up. So 80,000 like-minded individuals showing up in a different city each year for the last 148 years. 148 years. That's going on for 3 days, starting on Thursday. We've got a bunch of people from Gun Channels going. I sent out an email earlier. There's the 2A Summit project we started a while back, way before, back when Every Second Matters and stuff, when we were trying to get people together to, be conscious of our Second Amendment and the idea of working together and pulling in the same direction. So if you guys want to take that and run with it, and we've got a kind of an unbranded logo there that's just kind of a representation of a peak. It says 2A Summit, so the number 2, the letter A, and then Summit, and then icon for what, like a microphone, a piece of paper, a camera, video, and a chat to indicate the various ways that we can communicate, and we use the social medias out there and the tools that we've got. Anyway, so a bunch of people will be showing up. Hopefully you all have a good time and further all of everybody's efforts. But we've got other things going on this week as well. Yesterday was Stupid Ass Earth Day, which is communist. So, or no, today is Earth Day, right? So Communist Day. Tomorrow, though, is the 23rd. Maybe it's the 23rd where you are, depending on where you're at, which will be the anniversary of the Army Reserve's birthday. 1908 started out as the Medical Reserve, and then eventually became the U.S. Army Reserve. So we have a Guard, and we have a reserve. We have a standing army, then we have a guard, and we have a reserve. Most of the people that are in the standing army enlist with some sort of a term and then some kind of reserve stint. And sometimes it's active reserve, sometimes it's inactive. The guards, on the other hand, are for the state. So if a state wants to have its own military presence or whatever, it's called a guard. And they train with the regular military, with the United States military, but they're their own individual entities, bossed around by their governors. Where the reserve is all under the president. It's separate, but under the guise of the rest of the military. So it's a national level thing. Anyway, they started in 1908, and their birthday's tomorrow. Stoner, the guy who invented the AR-15 and a bunch of other cool stuff, died on the 24th at 74 years old. The first shots at the NRA's Creedmoor Range happened in 1873 on Wednesday. So that'll be the day before the NRA show starts. In 1873, the NRA bought a bunch of property in New York, on Manhattan Island. It was called Creedmoor, and I think that's where it is. And they started shooting there, and it was the original concept of the NRA was to encourage marksmanship practice, in peacetime. Let's see, we have School Zones Act. Let's see what happened here. On April 26, 1995, the U.S. Supreme Court overturned a federal law banning gun possession near schools on the grounds that it was beyond the scope of Congress's power to regulate interstate commerce. So it's not necessarily a win because it was a stupid school ban, but it was a chink or a chunk out of their jackboot, I guess. A little less pressure on the jackboot. Anyway, something to think about while everybody else is at NRA. If you're looking for some kind of content, consider doing some research on stuff like that. We got Harry Quacken. He's a cool dude. Was going to be, let's see, he was born on April 27th, so that'll be on Saturday. That was back in 1847. Anybody know who Henry Quackenbush? I didn't say his name right. Anybody know who Henry Quackenbush is? Name sound familiar? Quackenbush?
Yeah.
Who is he?
He was an inventor.
Obviously, Donald Duck. Obviously, Donald Duck's father.
No.
Wasn't he the inventor of air rifles?
Yeah, it was an air rifle. Yeah.
Yep. Well, he's the father of the mass-produced air gun, it says, but it's kind of an interesting story if I remember it correctly. So yeah, interesting. Air guns are cool. They're separate, not quite parallel, but interesting things to research. I've done a little bit of research with the inventors on the air gun story, and it's one of ours. It's a U.S. invention, super neat, and it's all about kids going around shooting stuff and just the innovation and really cool. It's interesting as far as being a capitalist and being a Second Amendment advocate. So air guns are super cool.
Do we know when the first air gun was done?
Yeah, long time ago. Remember Lewis and Clark? That was those air gun tech. I don't want to say it predates guns, but it's
That was
back there.
you're an Aldi, or wasn't that a
Girodani.
I don't know how to say
something
his
like
name either.
that? I wonder if they it predated that though, even.
Oh heck yeah!
Yes, yes,
that
it
was an established gun to the point where it could shoot however many rounds, like 20, 30
Yeah,
rounds or
That was
something.
actually used in military battles.
Yeah, like
a
in
huge
war.
wagon to refill it.
Like in France,
Turkish.
and they like used it, like the infantry used them. Like they were established machines by that point. Like I think air guns might even be one of them things that were invented before people were reporting who invented things.
The Lewis and Clark one specifically was the Girandoni air rifle.
Yeah, no, I don't know how to say that either. So anyway, that's stuff that's coming up this week. We'll talk about it again as it happens, and then just to put it in perspective broader from the week, we just got done with the anniversaries of Waco and all that implies, and the reasons for that and the consequences of that. And then we've got on Monday, next Monday, the beginning of the LA riots in '92. So when people will chant, "Why do you need an AR-15?" We're sitting in a weird piece of history this week between two events that explain quite vividly why you might want an AR-15 for something that isn't offensive, assault. Anyway, so there's some stuff happening on the calendar. Let's see. You may have a gun shop we can talk about today.
I don't think I've ever heard Nice Strike bring up a gun shop.
You know what a gun shop is, Nice Strike? You ever been to a gun shop?
Yes, I brought up a couple before, but I don't have one off the top of my head tonight.
What's the last gun shop you went to?
PSA.
All right, so Palmetto State is they're a gun shop and a manufacturer. They've got how many locations now?
More than I can count.
Four, I think, right?
4 or 5, I think it is. Because you don't include their warehouse downtown. So
do they have like an About Us page anywhere? Has anybody ever done like a video with founders or anything to talk about where they came from?
I don't think so. No.
The owner has a video that Palmetto put out themselves that talks about that.
Yeah.
Oh, really? On a YouTube or someplace?
Yeah, on YouTube.
Okay, I'm going to their About page here, It'll say Palmetto State Armory was created by people with a passion for firearms, tactical gear, and the great outdoors. The history of Palmetto State is simple. This one guy, veteran Jamin, I guess his name, returned from deployment with the same passion and demand for excellence that was installed in him through the military. As an avid gun lover and businessman, he soon noticed there did not seem to be a customer-friendly company available for everyday gun enthusiasts. So with the help of a few family members and friends, Palmetto State Armory was created. It doesn't tell us the date, though. Starting at just the ammunition and magazine website, PSA has grown into a full-service company represented by the website, multiple retail locations, and personalized firearms. With the dedication to quality and customer service, PSA has their sights set on continued excellence and growth. So I guess that gives us a story, but I was hoping
they've got 5 locations currently. So, but again, with PSA, they're we don't have Cabela's or or what is it? What's the other one besides Cabela's? It's the tackle store.
Bass Pro.
Yeah, we don't have Cabela's or Bass Pro in South Carolina. There's only one Cabela's, I think, in like maybe the Greenville area, but the rest of South Carolina, we don't have any. So basically, PSA is pretty much. It's not just they sell more than just guns. They sell any kind of fishing or hunting equipment you would need.
They're more like outfitters, you mean? They have everything you need for going out.
They've got archery. They've got, if you need a kayak, they sell kayaks too. So, they do more than just guns, but their focus and emphasis is on guns. Because they also make them.
I want to say that Palmetto State Armory celebrated their 10-year anniversary last year. If I remember, maybe it was the year before, but I think they're like 10, 11 years old. I don't think they're that old.
Well, we're going to find out. But first, let's take a moment to say welcome to all our Easter worshipers. You guys been watching that business going around? Easter worshipers.
Easter worshipers.
You know how
that's what they call Christians now.
The left likes to use words to change the window of like what's done or like whatever what's that window called? So they're efforting for some reason.
Perception.
Well, there's a word for that concept though of like what's whatever the like window. What's the word? Like the window of like what's common or what's
the Overton window.
Yes, thank you. So they're trying to move that, it seems like, and get rid of the word Christian, I suppose. So we want to know how old Palmetto State is. I mentioned earlier that if you do stuff on the internet as opposed to on a platform, your stuff will last forever. So we can look at PalmettoStateArmory.com. We can grab that URL, and then we can just go over to the internet and we can type in Wayback, just like the cartoon. What's his face, the Peabody and the kid Wayback Machine. So you type in Wayback, and you go to the Wayback Machine, and then you just paste that URL that we were curious about, and it's going to show us everything that website has ever done. So it looks like 2008 was the first time that specific URL. Now this isn't 100%. Got to do a little CSI work here. They may have used a different website before that or something, but you can see they've obviously been around since at least 2008. So we'll take a look at what that first one looked like, and when you go to the calendar here and click on something, eventually it'll bring us to what Palmetto State Armory's first website looked like. I'm guessing 2008. Welcome to the grand opening. So we think we just figured out their grand opening was in 2008. And we found that out not because of their website put it there, but because the internet knows everything and never forgets. And that's just one way you have access to that. So everything you do has value. Value your voice. Every effort you put into the internet will be there forever. Thanks for watching.